Woo! Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah,
To
let's hear it in the back.
whoa, 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 whoa. That's right. We heard you. Yep, that's right. Welcome back to Grace Podcast.
Podcast. That's
That's
right,
right.
bro.
Uh, it's me. This is if you've not heard this or you've never listened or watched us. For those who are on YouTube, my name is Jordan McKinney.
And my name's Jesse Ramos.
Yes. Uh, yeah. Brush it off. We are the hosts of the Grace Podcast,
Yeah,
and we are very pumped to be back with you guys tonight.
that's right.
Um, Shout out, actually, for today, it is my wife's birthday. So
Right.
shout out to Corey. Yep, she's a
Happy
young lady.
birthday, Corey. Shout out
That's
to
right.
you.
Hoo, 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 hoo.
Let's
So that's my
go.
wife. She's amazing. And it's her birthday. So I had to make sure I got her right. Went and had some dinner and stuff with the fam, which was fun.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
It was great. It
Where'd
was
you
so
guys take
great.
her?
We went to a place called Steve's Landing. It was like
Nice.
it's on the lake. Corey loves riding on the boat on the lake. So we rode on
Yeah.
the boat to the place and then rode back home. So
Oh, wow.
it was really fun.
That is really cool. So, like, this restaurant is out on, like, you have to get on a
You
boat to
don't
get to it?
necessarily have to drive there on the water, but you can. Like you can
Oh,
drive there like in your
right.
car. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you can get to it by boat though too. I
Dude,
know.
this is cool.
It was
That is
very cool.
cool. Where is this at? Like in
It's
Tennessee or
probably
something?
like 45 minutes by water from the Chickamauga Dam, close to
Okay,
Chattanooga. So
cool.
it's not too far, but it probably
Yeah,
I don't know how long it would take by car either, but it's in
yeah.
Tennessee somewhere. But it's
Cool,
cool.
man.
Heck yeah. It's very cool.
Man, that's awesome.
Um,
Congratulations to
hey,
Corey.
yeah, congrats to Corey. Another year around the
Another
sun.
year.
You know,
That's right.
not everybody gets to do it every year, so
That's
glad she
right.
did. So
Yeah, that's
uh
right. Happy birthday, Corey.
yeah. But anyways, Jesse, I mean, why don't you tell the people about what's going on?
Thank you, man.
What's happening?
All right, let me get my mic out and my
Yeah,
my notes. I'm gonna tell the
there it
people what
is.
we got. All right. What we got what we got going on today. We're gonna talk about I was telling Jordan because we talk about what we're wanting to talk about on Thursday on these podcasts, and we said I think miracles because I've been reading Exodus. I'm still in Exodus, reading the story of Moses, and there's a lot of miracles going on. Like almost every chapter, there's something going on where God's doing something crazy, awesome, and I'm like, man, what better topic than to talk about miracles? It's huge. I think it's kind of an interesting topic, and and I think it's one that maybe I guess some people either I think in any religion there's miracles, right? But I think in this specific scenario, I think like obviously what we believe in God and Jesus Christ, I think it's cool to know that these miracles are happening because God has a purpose with each one of them, basically, you
Right.
know? And I know we wrote down some questions that we want to share with
Yes,
each other. So
definitely. I'm excited to talk about those. And also like miracles are I feel like it's a good topic because I feel like there's almost some tension when people talk about miracles a little bit
yeah, that's right.
because
That's what I was trying to go at. Like,
yeah, it's because I
that,
mean they're so present in the Bible. And like you mentioned, I mean they could be even present in other religions and what they believe and things that have happened in their histories or whatever's written in their
right.
books. Um, and I think like it's it's obviously a point of tension because there's obviously people who believe that miracles have happened, and then there's people who believe that miracles don't happen. Uh, but I think I mean just like the same way people believe and don't believe in God, you know,
Yeah.
it's similar. But I was excited like once you started, you told me you wanted to do it, and then
Yeah.
talking about like getting to ask each other questions. I thought that was a really cool way to go about this. And I think we've
Yes.
got good questions. So,
Yes. Yes, man.
I'm pumped for that part.
Yeah, me too, man. I think and that's actually what I was trying to go for. Like that was the point I was trying to make was miracles. There is a lot of tension to it because which is one of the questions I have is like I feel like I guess I'll go ahead and start with that one.
Yeah,
Do you
go
feel
ahead.
like miracles can be subjective?
Okay,
Like,
say that one more time.
so my question is, do you feel like miracles can be subjective?
Okay. And when you say subjective, what do you mean?
Like, I mean, like, do you feel like there could be a miracle happening to one person that is saying this is a miracle from God, where because it's their personal situation that they feel like they actually feel like this is God, but somebody seeing it from a different point of view is like, oh, that's just, for example, paying off your debt, right? I mean, I don't know. They
Right.
and they're like, man, this is a miracle. And then somebody said, no, you just were just more responsible with your money. And that
Yeah,
was,
I,
and then somebody,
mm,
you know what I mean? Like,
yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know.
That is a very good question. That's a good one to start out with. Dang.
I know that's probably a hard one to start off with.
No, it's okay. It's a good one. We're hitting them out of the gates. What if I just said no and then we moved on to the next one? I was kidding. I'm just kidding. Still talking
That's a
about it at
quick
all, make it
question. We'll
easy.
look into it.
Yeah,
Next.
yeah. No. Yeah, yeah. Let me get back to you tomorrow and then we'll see. Uh no,
So
that's a
funny,
good
dude.
question. I I believe that like there and number one too, I want to throw this
Say
out here,
say that
like
one more
this
time.
caveat for yeah, yeah. Jesse just tried to record me for those who couldn't see it with his camera. uh for just so we could throw this kind of out as like a disclaimer, like
Yes,
me and
that's right.
Jesse, like we follow Jesus and like we have
Yes.
the Holy Spirit inside of us. And we're gonna do our absolute best. And we feel like we have the grace from the Lord to talk about this subject.
Yeah, that's right.
But if there's anything that you guys feel like that we're off on or that you want to
Yeah.
challenge us in, like 1 million
Yeah.
percent, please do so. Like take us to bat of whatever it is that you think that we maybe misspoke on or whatever, because we're
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
here and open for correction because I mean we're humans and we're not
Mm.
going to be perfect, but
Dude, I
we
love that
still
you said.
believe it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that's true, dude. I think we're both very coachable, spiritually, I
Right.
think too. Like and I think we're here, we're just trying to spark a conversation, which I think most people have anyways. And
Yeah,
then we're trying to
because
create
we don't want to
engagement.
ignore it. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to ignore it because it's hard to talk about, just to not say anything because like we're not perfectly rounded on all the knowledge that needs to happen about like the history of miracles or anything like that. But I still think it's worth talking about because I think this is a point that it's like a point of tension that people bring up a lot when they do or don't believe in God. Like this is something that
Yeah.
comes up.
Yeah, because you
Um,
see it often like in church, right? Like where people like, hey, we want to lay hands on people and we want marriages to be healed. And we want this and stuff. And they start listing a couple of things. And I think that's great. And then that's where the tension comes. And some people are like, oh, that's, I just think they're just praying for us, or metaphorically, they're just saying that our marriage can be healed. But then there's other people, or they're like, hey, we want prayer for our sickness because we want us to be healed from this illness. And then the tension is like, oh, that's the argument there. I've heard many times is like, well, you should still take your medicine and still try to eat healthy so that you can recover from an illness. And then others are like, no, well, I believe in God wholeheartedly. I don't need to take medicine. All I need is prayer, and I know and believe that God will heal me. So I think that's where the tension is, like two thoughts or
right.
many things, actually. So
Yes, I agree. Uh, to get back, I guess to tie this back to your question about whether or not that I believe that miracles are subjective, like are they real for one person and maybe not another, or they could,
yeah,
uh, I would say that sometimes I feel like they may come off that way. Um, and I think that that may be an understanding that a lot of people have is like me from the outside, I can see like if you were, to like be sick and then you were taking medicine and going to the doctor, but you were also praying for healing during that whole time, I could just write it off that like he took his medicine, went to the doctor, and he's better, that's what did it. But like you're in your heart, even though you were taking the medicine and going to the doctor, but at the same time, like asking God to heal you, you could wholeheartedly believe that like the Lord is the reason that you got better.
Yeah.
Um, and so in that way, like they may feel like they're subjective because like it's just a lack of understanding from many people who maybe just didn't get to be a part of the full process. Like to the person specifically who maybe experiences a miracle, like anybody who
Yeah.
experiences a miracle, in my opinion, has a completely different understanding of what happened than somebody who just watched it, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
and in
here's a
that way, it's hard. But what were you
and I was
saying?
gonna say like maybe this might and this maybe isn't like another question, a follow-up question with the original one, right? Which is
Okay.
are miracles subjective? But how do you think we can define miracles? Like for somebody that maybe is hearing the word miracle for the first time, or maybe they have heard miracle but haven't really sat down and thought about what we mean when we say miracles or what God has used miracles in the Bible for.
So here we go. It's funny you asked that because I have on my left screen over here looked up miracle definition, and it says
That's crazy.
a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency.
Wow.
And that's
Say that one more
Oxford
time for the people
Languages.
in the back.
Yeah, so one more time. A surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency.
Mm,
So I think that's a great definition. And I think I'm starting to feel like I feel like the Holy Spirit's kind of stirring something up in me about what we're talking
yeah.
about right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think I really love that definition because I think a miracle is that. It's something that you can't prove with science or discredit with science or prove with science. It's something that, like us humans, we want everything to be 1 plus 1 kind of a thing. We want something to be explainable, like, oh, like medicine, right? Like this person got healed because he took the proper medication to get healed. But in this case, miracle is you can't explain it. You don't
Yeah.
know how it happened, but it happened. Whatever it is, right? Like a blind man now sees. Like,
Hmm.
how the heck does that happen?
Right.
Like, did they take medication? Did they get new eyeballs inserted? We
Right.
want an explanation. And I think a miracle is that it's something that you just can't explain. You almost have to like see it with your own eyes.
Yeah.
And but also I think miracles are where it forces you to have faith in God. Like you have no other option but to have faith in God. Either you have faith in God or you continue to choose not to believe.
Okay. I feel that because that was part of a question that I had for you
Yeah.
was, and I think you kind of answered it right there, but maybe to go even a little bit deeper is like, why do you feel like God performs or performed miracles?
Mm. I think he did because he wanted to prove that sometimes we just can't do it on our own. Like some
Mhm.
things, I think we want naturally, it's in us that we want to do things on our own. We want to fix our own problems. We want to, we often, I feel like we often are just more naturally inclined to just, hey, I don't want to burden anybody with my problems, with my issues. I just want to deal with it with myself.
Yeah.
But I think when you got a big enough issue, like let's say you get told that you got cancer, at that point you can't really hold that in. You can't really hide that. and hold that in with and deal with that by yourself. At some point, you got to be like, dude, like I need help, or you get stuck in a position where it's so bad that you're left with either two options: continue to deal with it yourself, or ask for a higher call, somebody higher, which is God, and saying, God, I need you. I need you to do something. And I think often that's where God did miracles, is where he's doing something that you can't do,
Yeah,
so
that's
that
good.
his strength can be made perfect in our weakness, right? Where his glory, where he can receive the glory, where he can receive the credit, so that people can
Mhm.
be like, yo, like it's clear that this wasn't a human doing this. This was God.
Right.
Like, I don't know if that's a good answer, but I think for me, I think miracles are, and the purpose for them is to prove and give God glory, to prove that God is real, one, and two is to prove that we couldn't do it without God. And because what other explanation would there be, you know?
Right.
Because if you could explain something, then you could repeat it. Or normally you could figure out a way to repeat it again,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And so I agree 100%. Here's where I think an issue lies uh
Yeah.
with like because I believe what you're saying too. Because I think
Yeah.
100% that's why I feel like God does those kind of things, and he did those kind of things, and he will do those kind of things. Number one, for his name to receive the
For
glory.
his glory.
Right. But also it's to show like in him receiving the glory, it's people realizing and him showing who he is, which is like ultimately what we want and what we need is like to know who God is, like to know him. Um, and I think what's crazy is just that like I think what's hard just to kind of get to it is that like sometimes like personally I have never seen a blind man be given sight.
Yeah.
And not like I'm not talking like in a metaphorical way, like where like somebody whose soul like because I have seen somebody who like was one way like blind to like his anger or blind like even me like I was
Their own
blind
ways.
to my own sin. Like I was blind to the fact that I was completely caught up in lust or drugs or drinking or
Right.
whatever it was that like was controlling my life. Like I was blind to how much that was like being a detriment to who I was. But then now like I can see and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I obviously know that. But I'm like talking straight up like a blind person who literally can't see like being able to see, or somebody who is completely paralyzed, like
Wow.
actually can't walk, like get up and start walking. Like
Mm.
I've never seen that. Like I
Yeah.
100% believe that God can do that, and like I
Yeah.
believe that Jesus made that happen. Um, and I think like to answer the question about why I feel like God performs miracles, like in the physical body, is because I think He's almost trying to teach us more about the spiritual body too, though. Like talking
Mm.
about like what matters the most in the spirit, like when like without God, like for if say you're paralyzed, like and you can't walk, like without God, our spirit is essentially paralyzed. Like we cannot move without him. Like we
Mm.
can't grow, we can't like have freedom to move. Like we're shackled, like we can't move, like whenever
Wow.
like without him. And the same thing with like just kind of the example I shared with like being blind spiritually, like I
Wow.
can't see all the stuff that I'm doing wrong until he gives me sight spiritually. And so that's part of why I feel like he did and does miracles is so that people can like, yes, it's obviously he wants our physical bodies to be good and like healthy and strong, but like God has so much more set on the kingdom that is coming and like the things that are unseen that like I feel like he uses the physical that is seen to kind of help reveal the unseen.
Mm. That got me thinking about the miracle of Lazarus, right?
Hmm.
Where you got people saying, "Hey, by the way, Lazarus is dead,"
Hmm.
and he's like, "Oh man, all right." So he goes. You know the story, right?
Right.
Goes to visit Lazarus, and he's already in the tomb.
Yeah.
People crying, obviously, and I forget her name. Was it her name also Mary?
Yeah, it was Mary.
Basically says you came too late. Like
Hmm.
you're late, but I appreciate you coming. Basically, so the miracle there is Jesus says, "Hey, roll the stone, Lazarus, wake up," and he
Hmm.
comes out. And he's alive again. And everybody's like, "Whoa!" He just raised a dead man. That's a miracle.
Yes, and it was immediate, dude.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. I mean, this
Yeah.
guy was stinking, like
Yeah.
I mean, you could smell the death on him. I
Yep.
mean, I can imagine. I mean, I mean, I've the closest thing I've came to somebody like something dead was like a roadkill, and it does smell
Right.
bad.
Right.
You can only imagine a body.
And it was
Probably,
4 days.
yeah. And you know what's crazy? I think like what you said is like it's to show that God, to me, it just demonstrates like God, there's nothing impossible that God can't do. God has the final say. But, it's interesting. I heard this in a sermon actually. It was like, God, Lazarus was raised back to life only to then live a few more years later and, pass away again. So why was he
Yes.
raised? Why was he raised if he was going
Yeah.
to die? Right. So
Right.
that was interesting. It got me thinking. I was like, okay, I think the miracle there is, and the purpose for that miracle is just to show God's power, that
Yeah.
He has the final say. Like, and when I say that, what I understand when of God having the final say is like God is in control of literally even us, like of our breath, of whether we're paralyzed or not, whether we can see or not, whether we live today or die tomorrow. Like everything is
Mhm.
in God's hand. Like as much as it seems like God's not in control. God is definitely, most definitely in control.
Yes. That was what I felt like he was teaching me earlier when we started this call just now. Like that was what I was saying that I felt like was
Yeah.
he was stirring up in me and kind of what like there's a song called Million Little Miracles by
Yeah.
Maverick
Oh
City
yeah.
Music, and it
Love
talks
that one.
about this like. And I was, for some reason, though, when I listened to it the last time, I was like, man, like it's really hard for me to understand like this million little miracles. Like they're talking about how they've seen a million little miracles, like one, two, three, four. I can't even count them all. How many God's done for me,
Yeah.
and I'm like sitting here, like, what are y'all talking about? Like
Mm.
how? Like I've not seen him do any of that crazy stuff. But like what you're saying is exactly right. Is like we're in God's hands. Like it's not in our control. Like we feel like we have so much control over our lives and like breathing or
Yeah.
like going to work or
Yeah.
having a
Yeah.
job or like
Yeah.
getting married, having kids, having a house, a place to live, whatever it is. Like we act like we like that's something that's just given, but like it's 1,000,000% like given by God. And because it like just like if we go back to our definition of what a miracle is, like a miracle is a surprising or welcome event that is not explicable by nature or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. Like
Yeah.
we might be able to explain, like, all right, I have a place to live because I have a job and I have money, but like we can't explain why we're not paralyzed or we're
Mm.
not like crazy out of our minds where we can't go do those type of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like we can't
Yep.
explain why we're made the way that we are or whatever it is. And so like that's
Yeah.
where like it always goes back to that like all things like flow from God, like blessings flow from the Lord. And
Yeah.
that is just that's it.
Yeah. I think that's why like miracles were performed to just again just to prove that God is in control. God is still obviously in control, which I already said, but like he's so powerful and awesome.
Yeah,
Like there's nothing that God can't do, literally. Like
literally.
calling a dead man alive is crazy. Like he just, how do you go back from like smelling like death and rotten skin to healthy skin and
Yeah,
healthy organs?
living, blood flowing again.
Yeah, I mean that's unexplainable, literally. Super
It,
unexplainable.
and I mean, that's who God is. Like that's the point of who
Yeah,
God is like he is unexplainable. Like we can't
yeah,
explain how God created the entire universe and how he existed before like anything that we understand has existed. Like we can't explain that. He created something out of nothing.
yeah,
Like, and that's who God is. Like he's
yeah.
just so much greater.
Yeah.
Like you said, like nothing is impossible for him. Uh
And my question to you is like, why do you feel like we don't see
yes.
awesome miracles like that now in
C-
today's time?
Okay.
Like a
Let,
person coming back to life from death.
so, all right. That is a really freaking good question because that was exactly where my mind was going next too was okay, like so me and you both believe like miracles
Yeah,
happen and that they did happen and
yeah,
but like why are we not seeing like what Jesus was doing right now?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think oh man, that's a loaded question, but
I know
like
it is.
to
I know it's
to
a loaded question. It's
to try and answer in short,
I think that's a
man, it
hard
is
question for
hard.
anybody to
I
answer.
think number one, like I go to Proverbs 3:5, like talking about like uh leaning not on my own understanding about like how or why things do or don't happen, like and just understand like God has a purpose, plan, and his will be done, whether or not I understand why it is
Mm,
happening. But
that's good.
I
That
think
was good.
yeah, that's part of it. And I think also another part of it, like to actually answer your question, why I feel like things sometimes don't happen now is like it goes back to your first thing, like would it be for God's glory, number one, that like miracles like this happen right now? Or is it just for me and my selfishness? Like, would it help me know who God is more to see that miracle? Like
Yeah.
genuinely. Like, would that display of power like do what it needs to do to lead me closer to him? You know, like obviously in my mind, I'm like, heck yeah, if I saw that, I'd I'd do anything for God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing in
Yeah.
the world that I wouldn't do. But like then at the same time, like I'm sitting here saying, like, I believe that he did all of those things in the Bible, but yeah, I'm not sitting here saying I'll do anything right, even though I do, like I will do anything, but like, I'm acting like I'd act different if I saw one in person rather than believing like
Mm.
if I just read about it and I believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's almost like I feel like God's miracles were so miraculous that it's enough. It's enough for him to do it one time and not need to repeat it again. Because if you notice, all right, I think I'm just coming to realize I don't think God did the same miracles the same way every single time. Like I don't know if God parted the sea through anybody else other than Moses, like the way that he did in the Bible. Or do you know of another time where God used somebody to part the sea?
There actually, I think, was another time that there was like
Really?
a maybe not in the exact same way. Uh,
Really, that's interesting.
Wait, let me see.
Because like, so my point with all this is saying like, I think the reason why we don't maybe necessarily see a miracle as insane as seeing somebody come back to life from after being pronounced dead, or seeing a blind man all of a sudden see, is because probably, like you said, it's probably not in God's will for maybe those kind of miracles to happen maybe now. Again, it's under God's control, and I think it goes beyond our understanding maybe. And it's in timing, and it's in his timing, and God can choose to do whatever he thinks is best and
Yep.
whatever he truthfully, it's like, I mean, when you own something, when you're the owner of anything, you can do whatever the heck you want, basically. I don't know how it's to say it. Like if you own your own
Right.
house, you own your own car, you can trash it if you want, or you can drive it, you can paint it, or whatever, it's yours. And
Right.
God, we belong to God. This
Right.
earth belongs to God. So if it's his will to continue to perform miracles like he did before, then that's up to God. And if it's
Right.
not, then that's also his will, which
Right.
is, I don't know if there's a better way of saying it that sounds nicer.
No, I think that's a good way of saying it because I mean, not not seeing miracles shouldn't drive you away from God. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like because if that makes you think because you haven't seen a miracle that he's any less good, then you have a false understanding of who he is. Like,
Or real.
because
Because some people use miracles as like, well, if I see a miracle, then I'll believe.
and this is oh yes, exactly. Say that again. Some people literally use miracles like as if they see that one thing, then they'll believe. And it goes back to the scripture where like
What was it? Doubting Thomas or doubting what was the disciple that said the same thing was like, well, I won't believe that Jesus was raised from the grave until I see his hands.
yeah,
Was that doubtful Thomas, right?
that was it. But then he talks about like there was a part in I think they're saying it's Matthew 12:38 through 39 where
Read it, man.
he's
Please.
basically talking about how like there he calls like Jesus literally calls this group of people the Pharisees. Yes, exactly. Matthew 12:38 through 39, they say, Then some of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you,
Mm,
like a
yeah,
work, a miracle almost.
yeah,
And he
basically.
answered, A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but
Wow.
none will be given it except the sign of the prophet of Jonah.
Wow.
Yeah. The sign of prophet of Jonah is like him being swallowed for 3 days and then spit back out, which is
Wow.
Jesus dying, being in the tomb for 3 days and coming back out.
Can you read that one more time? Because that's big.
I sure will. I think it's hitting on what needs to be hit on. Matthew 12:38 through 39 says, Then some of the Pharisees and teachers of the law said to him being Jesus, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. And he answered, A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but
Wow.
none will be given it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. So
What
he's
do you think?
basically saying, like, if you're asking for signs, none will be given. Like, because it's wicked and adulterous, like to be in that kind of mind frame, because it's like
That kind of, yeah.
you're
Ah,
wanting the miracle and you're not wanting God. And like God's like, you're wanting this simple thing that I can do for you, like because nothing is impossible for me. You're wanting this simple thing, like even if it looks crazy to you and you don't understand it, like you'd rather have that than have me.
mm,
Like, and I am the creator of the universe. Like I can make anything happen, and you want one miracle to happen just so you can believe. Like,
yeah. I think it goes, that's crazy because I think it like you having somebody, you having the creation ask the creator, hey, prove to me that you're real by creating something else when you're literally standing on his creation, on something that
yes,
is miraculous. You're standing on earth that is perfectly aligned to where we're not too far from the sun or too close to the sun, right? That's one crazy miraculous. It's almost too perfect where it's like, how is it that we're perfectly situated in a place where we can sustain life, that life can be sustained on earth, right?
mm,
That's one miracle. And you
yeah,
know what's crazy? Because there is people that say, well, if until I see God do something as heal a blind man, I won't believe. But I think
mm,
I think we'll see it often in the Bibles where there is people that get to see these crazy miracles, like in Moses. These people that were led away from Egypt, right? Got to see so many miracles, countless, not just one, not just two, but countless miracles over
daily.
almost daily. That's right.
Well,
With
so the
the man,
manna would come in the morning, and then
yeah,
like they would have the fire by night, or yeah, fire by night, the
Yeah,
cloud by day. Like, come on,
yeah.
that's daily.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like, yeah, you would think, okay, people saying that all I need is to see one miracle. These guys in the past saw it
Thousands.
and still doubted it. And still doubted. If you think you have to see God perform a miracle for you to believe, it just isn't gonna
That's
happen.
not it.
Because
Yes.
people in the past saw it and they still didn't believe. And it's like,
Yes.
again, it's like, dude, at some point you gotta just, it's a decision. It's a decision to put your faith in God and your trust in God,
Right.
to believe that He is real, that He is powerful, and that He cares for us, and that He's got a
Yes.
purpose for us. And He's His will is better than whatever will we got for ourselves.
Right. And it's a personal relationship with him. Like, it's not like I'm a creation and the creator's up here and we're separated kind of thing. Like, I know he exists and I know he's good, but like I don't know him. No, like it's like he's here, he
Yeah,
loves you, and he wants to spend time with you, and like he will genuinely reveal himself to you if you come to him wholeheartedly and like God, like in your room, in your quiet place when it's just you, like, Lord, I want to talk to you genuinely. Like, I have a heart to understand who you are, but I don't. And like, I don't want to chase after miracles. Like, I don't want a fake thing that just riles me up just because I don't understand it. Like, I want to know who you are, God. Like, that's what I want to know.
mm,
And that's like, that's the prayer that we need to have, you know?
that's
Um,
right.
but that, and to say all of that, like, God still does miracles. And like God actually gave us the ability because Jesus lives inside of us. It's no longer I who lives, but Christ who lives in me. He
Mm,
says in John 14:12-14, he says, Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do. And greater works than these will he do because I'm going to the Father. Whatever you ask in my name, this I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that because now it's not like, it makes it so, it almost levels out the playing field for everybody. Where it's like you don't have to be a Moses, you don't have to be a Joseph, you don't have to
yeah,
be a Abraham. It's anybody that
exactly.
it's anybody that calls upon the name of Jesus, eh,
Yes,
that can literally have access to.
yes,
That's crazy.
yes,
Faith, obviously, right? Because without faith, you can't please God.
exactly. And I think asking in Jesus's name is in faith. You know what I mean? Like to ask in his name is to know who his name, what his name means and who he is. So that means that like when you ask in his name, you are asking in the belief of who God and who Jesus is and what he can do.
That's right,
And
dude. So
that's
good.
and like it's just like you'll do greater works than what Jesus did, it says, is what's insane. That doesn't make sense how he could say those words, but those came out of Jesus's mouth. Like, and I just we're running like really we got like a minute left, but
No, man, there's so much more I wanted to say, but I think I think we said a good bit, and I think I want people to be left with and encouraged to read the Bible and read. There's tons of miracles, tons of them. And then you know what's interesting? A lot of these people still doubted, and still, it's it's just in it just it's just insane how people would doubt
yeah,
even seeing amazing miracles. But I guess my encouragement to everybody is like, even when you got this gut feeling that it is a miracle and that God is working in your life, I think you should run with that and have faith and say, yes, I believe that this is you, God, working in my life and performing a miracle in my life, even if it's just for me. I believe that, you just have faith.
yep, that's it. And we're about to run out of time. So thank you, everyone. We love you. Peace. We'll see you guys
Peace.
next time.
Peace out.
Peace out, Girl Scout.